If you're looking to learn something new, check out the adult education classes at the Newberry Library. The classes cover a range of topics in art, history, and literature and are open to anyone who wants to learn. The fall term is just getting started with classes on a variety of subjects from Madrid to Istanbul to Victorian Britain to Kurt Vonnegut. Courses are available in person and online, led by passionate expert instructors. Classes at the Newberry this fall will give you a lot to think about. Learn more and register at newberry.org. Look, I'm an early riser. Maybe I'm playing pickleball or at the gym, or I'm strolling through the farmer's market taking some pictures. Luckily, Huel Black Edition makes it easy to fuel up. Spelled Huel, Huel's Black Edition powder has got the protein, vitamins, and minerals to help you feel full and ready for the day. Me, I like to go on and mix it into my morning smoothie. And even if the blender is too much for you, they just dropped a super greens drink in a can, the Huel Daily Greens Ready to Drink. Try Huel with 15% off for new customers today using our code Chicago at Huel.com/Chicago. Fuel your best performance with Huel today. Today on CityCast Chicago, fences go up at the Broadview Ice Facility. The Chicago Fire Stadium is racing ahead, and should we be letting dogs in restaurants? It's Friday, September 26th. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. I've got two friends of the podcast from the Sun-Times. Reporter Nader Issa is in the building. Nader, welcome back to the podcast.
What's up, Jacoby? Thanks for having me.
And from Borderless Magazine, Katrina Pham. Katrina, thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Jacoby. Good to see you again.
I am grateful for anyone who is making time to listen to this podcast right now. If you've been here for a few days or a few months or a few years, I hope that you are not only enjoying this, sharing this with your friends and family, but at the end of the day, you find value out of the work we do. Even if you just show up on these Fridays, which I know a lot of y'all do, because this is y'all favorite episode, we appreciate it. If this is your first episode of the week, then I want to let you know that we are rounding out the first week of our fall membership campaign. We're inviting CityCast Chicago listeners, Hey Chicago readers, to join our neighborhood and become a part of the CityCast Chicago neighbors, where for just $10 a month, or if you got a little bit of extra coin to give out and you want to get it out the way, go on and throw us $100 for the entire year, and you are going to get the ad-free listening and the access to neighbors-only events. But you can help to make sure that conversations like the one we are going to have today and the ones we've been having all week can continue well into the future. All you got to do is go to membership.citycast.fm, sign up. You could tell us, why you love the podcast, why you love the newsletter, and go ahead and get your neighborhood shout outs out the way. I'm going to read some later in this episode from some of our neighbors who have already joined up. Again, that's membership.citycast.fm. Come and join the neighborhood. Every single week, like I said, we bring in folks to talk about some of the big stories happening in our city, some of the stories we think deserve a little more attention. And truthfully, over the last few weeks, we have talked a lot about the ongoing immigration raids happening in Chicago, happening out in the suburbs and across Illinois. And a lot of our eyes have really been focused on Broadview, about 12 miles outside of the city, where there's a makeshift ICE detention facility where protests have been happening daily. Earlier this week, we talked about the protests from last Friday that really got aggressive as ICE agents were seen pushing people to the ground, firing pepper balls and tear gas, macing people directly in their eyes. Nader, what's the latest coming out of Broadview?
Yeah, people are still going out there, maybe not in as many numbers as we saw last Friday over the weekend, but there are bigger protests planned today on Friday and tomorrow on Saturday. And so we are going to see people going out there. I'm not sure what, the response will be from the federal agents. We should probably expect it to be about what we've seen. But the latest development is that they've erected this fence around the facility. And it's this pretty heavy fencing. They've cut off the entire street in front. That, even with the fencing, that hasn't stopped agents from shooting people with pepper balls through the fence. But it's sort of blocking off the facility, and Broadview officials have called it illegal. There's no permit, there's no permission to sort of block off this street. It's a public way. And so that's what we're following right now, whether Broadview is going to try to force the federal government basically to take down this fence around its facility out there.
Katrina, you've been on the scene over the last couple of weeks. What have you heard from protesters?
I think we're hearing people just expressing their frustration with everything going on with ICE raids and seeing their neighbors and community members being detained. And since Broadview is one of the few locations in Illinois and in Chicago where people can actually show up and feel like they can do something about, everything that's going on. Like, for example, a lot of the ICE raids that happen and ICE arrests that happen in people's neighborhoods, like they're very quick operations, right? Like by the time that people get out there and maybe hear about it on social media, ICE has already left. But Broadview is this building, right, that is supposed to be a temporary processing facility for people because Illinois has laws that prevent detention centers existing here in this state. It's supposed to be a temporary location, right, where people are just processed and then sent to other places outside of Illinois to be detained if they're arrested by ICE. But we're seeing that people are being detained here for prolonged periods of time, right, because ICE is experiencing high capacity issues with the amount of people that they're arresting, but not having enough detention centers to send people. So people really see Broadview as this location, right, where it's the nucleus of ICE operations here in Chicago and Illinois, where they are taking people to Broadview before they're being sent to other places. And so the hope is to maybe push back on where people are being sent, because when people are sent to other states, it's really hard for them to access their representation, hard for their families to go find them and to go talk to them and to give them things that they need. Even Broadview, like it's here in Illinois, it's still a challenge for people to access Broadview and to give family members potential like clothes or other medicine that they might need. I believe it was Axios that published a report over the weekend that was talking about a man who was told that he was supposed to show up at Broadview for his appointment, and then he couldn't even get in because of this fencing that's there now. So I think Broadview is this place where people are being told that they're supposed to be there, like for their ICE check-ins, but they're being prevented from getting inside. And there's protesters there who are trying to push back on all of the operations that are happening. And so, yeah, definitely tensions are high, and ICE just doesn't have a clear plan, it seems like, for what they want to do with the facility. Like they're saying it's being used for one thing, but in reality, people are being stationed there for longer periods of time and under lower standards of care because it's not technically supposed to be a detention center.
And I mean, Broadview is a town of less than 8,000 people. Its whole police department is like 25 people. And so, Nader, you talk about this tension between like their fire chief and federal agents who, in many cases sort of lord over them in rank and didn't have to ask permission to expand this facility or didn't have to ask permission to shut down the streets. The raids are picking up. The aggression is only picking up. And we're seeing a contrast in stories. You reported earlier this week about how the story federal agents were telling after an agent shot and killed Silverio Villegas Gonzalez a couple of weeks ago isn't matching up with the body cam footage we've now seen from local law enforcement.
Right. If you remember the shooting in the northwest suburb of Franklin Park, a couple ICE officers pulled over this gentleman and blocked off his car. He tried to leave, and then the Department of Homeland Security came out and said that he drove at them with his car, dragged one of the officers, and they shot and killed him. And so far, we haven't seen any videos of an officer being dragged. We still need to see if there's any video that shows this one side of the car where the officer would have been dragged. We haven't clearly seen it either way, that he was dragged or was not. But the discrepancy that we found in our reporting this week came from body camera footage from local police there who responded to the scene. They're walking up, they see the two ICE officers working, on the man, administering medical aid. after they've shot him multiple times. And the officer who was injured says, you can see his jeans torn a little bit. He's got some blood on his knee. They say he's got some cuts on his hand. And then he says his injuries are nothing major. And that's a pretty big departure from what the Department of Homeland Security put out right after the shooting. They were very quick with the statement, and they said that this officer was seriously injured and taken to the hospital, and his condition was stabilized there. He walked away from the scene. He was talking. It was clear he did not have major injuries. So that was a big discrepancy that sort of played up this narrative, because the Trump administration and the Department of Homeland Security and ICE have been talking a lot about ICE agents are under attack. ICE officers, federal agents, they're facing harassment, they're facing violent threats and attacks. We saw what happened in Dallas yesterday. It was 3 detainees who were shot, but the Trump administration is saying this is another attack on ICE. And so we're just seeing this sort of narrative building, and it has been building over many months from the Trump administration. And it just is not always lining up with what's actually happening on the ground.
Yeah, I think just echoing what Nader said, it's just not lining up what DHS is saying and what they're saying to justify like the use of force that led to Silverio Villegas Gonzalez's death. And so creating this narrative, right, that ICE agents are under attack, and this idea that immigrants are criminals. For example, like with Silverio, like after his death and after his fatal shooting by the ICE officer, the statement that DHS put out is that Silverio had a history of reckless driving and just trying to like bring up these things about his past in order to justify the use of force that was used by ICE agents. But a lot of the immigrant rights advocates that we talked to that day and since then have basically just said that that shouldn't be a reason why he was shot, though. And in addition to that, there's the question of whether or not the ICE agents who pulled him over had a warrant for his arrest. Because technically, ICE legally isn't supposed to do these sort of vehicle stops based only on someone's traffic violations. They're supposed to have a warrant supported by probable cause before stopping someone in their car, right? But it's really unclear whether or not these ICE agents had a warrant to stop Silverio. I mean, when I talked to Representative Norma Hernandez on the day of Silverio's shooting, she was saying that she hadn't seen or heard of any warrant for his arrest and warrant that he was someone who ICE was supposed to be targeting. You know, ICE is saying they're having these targeted operations, but we're really seeing this pattern. I mean, there was the lawsuit in California about the Latino workers saying that they're being racially profiled by ICE agents, and then the Supreme Court decision saying that those types of arrests can continue in California. Technically, that only applies to the Los Angeles immigration raids, right? But there's no reason to say like, oh, they could probably be doing the same thing here too. I mean, we don't have a lawsuit here in Chicago, but these are the tactics that they're saying they're using in California. And we know that the Border Patrol official, Gregory Bovino, who was leading a lot of these enforcement actions in California and Los Angeles, that he was also here in Chicago, leading some of the actions happening here too. And so if you are an immigrant who is driving a car and you are pulled over by a federal agent, you do have the right to ask whether they are a federal agent or whether they're local police. If you are the driver, your rights are different than if you're a passenger. If you're a driver, you can remain silent when asked about your immigration status, but you might have to show your license and registration if you're being asked. But if you're a passenger, you have the right to remain silent about your citizenship. You do not have to answer any questions about your citizenship, and you do not have to show your license and registration because you are just a passenger in the car. And so immigration lawyers that we've been speaking to since Villegas Gonzalez's death have said that overall their just main piece of advice is to comply with whatever agents are asking you. You know, it's obviously very scary times and very scary to be pulled over by federal agents, you know, like seeing what happened to Silverio Villegas Gonzalez and seeing what is happening to other immigrants across the nation. But they're saying that the best action, the best recommendation they have is to not resist, not to lie to any agents about status or anything like that, because that can later be used against you, and not to run. And if you're a bystander witnessing an arrest happen, that you should record and ask for emergency contact information to help connect family members or friends of whoever's being detained, and let them know like what's happening, because it can be hard for someone who's being detained to contact emergency contacts or family members, because they are being taken away.
Again, you are listening to Katrina Fan from Borderless Magazine, Nader Issa from the Chicago Sun-Times. I'm going to drop links to all of their reporting in our show notes. I got a feeling a lot of you out there got some excellent people skills. Maybe you worked in hospitality or customer service, or a job where you've had to listen, anticipate needs, and make somebody feel valued. Now, if that sounds like you, then you know how to put people first. And those are the same skills you need to become a successful realtor. Key part, successful. As a realtor, you wouldn't be starting from scratch. You'd be shifting your talents into a new role, one where you can set your own schedule, build new connections, and maybe even grow your earnings. If it sounds like real estate could be your next career move and you're like, but wait, where do I get started? We got you. Visit realtorsrealestateschool.com today to schedule your free career consultation. That's realtorsrealestateschool.com. Look, it's been a warm, mild September. Nobody, including myself, want to think about winter and the snow and the wind, but it is coming, my friends, and you're going to want to make sure your home is ready. So if you've been putting off replacing your old drafty windows and you can, now is the time to call Window Nation. And you really should do it now because time is running out on this Window Nation sale. Until September 30th, that's next week, when you buy 2 windows, you're going to get 2 for free. So you can get top quality, energy efficient windows at a reasonable price. Plus, installation only takes a day or less, so they're in, out, and you can get back to your day with brand new windows on your home. Don't miss out. Schedule a fast, free estimate now with the pros at Window Nation. Call 866-90-NATION or head to windownation.com. A couple of weeks ago, we did a honestly pretty tongue-in-cheek kind of fun episode just talking about pets in restaurants. Do we like them? What are the rules on the books? Me personally, I prefer not to see you and your animals at the restaurant. Obviously, that is not for service animals in any way or form, And again, if we like out on like a really open balcony, like a real open patio or something, do you? But Nader, it seems that one alderperson wants to expand that reach a little bit. Can you kind of catch us up here?
Yeah, there's a Northside alderman that's proposing lifting the ban on dogs in restaurants. This happened because apparently there was a restaurant in his ward that was letting dogs in, and they didn't realize that it was against city ordinance. And so he's arguing that, we need to make our spaces more friendly for people with dogs. That's kind of it. And it's gotten this really polarized response of like, yeah, dogs are great. Let's take them wherever. And I'm not trying to eat with a dog next to me anywhere I go. So it's gotten a lot of mixed reaction.
Dogs are currently not allowed inside where food is being served. Breweries that don't serve food and cafes are like great areas. Alder Timmy Knudsen up in the Lakeview, Lincoln Park area thinks that we're not dog friendly enough, that restaurants should be able to make this choice on their own. I don't agree with that. That's what you have. That's why we have certain regulations and food service requirements.
I mean, people love their dogs. We have a dog. Dogs are great, but as someone who cares for a dog every day and also has a dog next to me when I'm eating, I don't know why people would want that stress of the dog, like just dogs all through the restaurant begging for food. Or credit to you if your dog isn't sitting there staring up at you wanting a bite. But it seems like a stressful way to enjoy a night out having dinner.
And it seems like we've really started focusing more on like allergies, like asking people, like every restaurant I go to, it's like, do you have an allergy we should be thinking about? Yes, that dog right there to my right, that golden retriever, I'm allergic to it.
No, all I'm gonna say is my dog is a menace and he's very old, and he's a mixed Shih Tzu. He's from the shelter, and he likes to pee everywhere and mark his territory. Like, we try our best to take him on walks, like put a little diaper on him, but he's always in the corner lifting his leg, like staring at us. So I love my dog. I wouldn't bring him to the restaurant, and I don't think other people would want him there either. He's my little baby, but no, stay home.
No, and I have some great dogs in my life. For people who are against it, it's generally a health thing, thinking about allergies on top of that. They're not the easiest to be around. And I won't say most, right? I know a ton of people who think their dog is more well-behaved than it actually is. And I'm like, just because your dog like you.
Oh my God, the worst.
It's always not my dog.
The worst.
Not my dog.
Yeah.
People who are in favor, they're like their dogs are their children. You live in an apartment with a dog. You want to be able to take them places. It can be difficult to just like leave them. I know a lot of people who you be out late at night and they're like, all right, I got to bounce because I need to go take care of my dog. And so they like the idea of bringing the dog out with them a lot more. And some people think that restaurants could make more money by catering to people who have dogs. I hear you. Shout out to the people who love their little babies, but you got to go home early.
I hear you, but I don't see you.
Yeah, you got to go home early. I'm sorry. Like, we'll miss you. Grab your doggy bag and get up out of here. We'll see how far this actually goes, or if this is just one of those things that ends up languishing in city council. One thing that seems to be moving pretty quickly through city council as of right now is the Chicago Fire's plan to build a $650 million stadium on the long talked about 78 development. They're hoping to buy nearly 10 acres for a 22,000 seat stadium. Related Midwest, the company that is going to go in on this venture, is also hoping to bring hotel space, office space, retail. You know what they've been talking about at the 78 for the last 6-7 years. However, one thing that I don't think is getting nearly as much attention is some of the concern from residents, whether it's in the South Loop or nearby Chinatown. And Katrina, you've been hearing some of these concerns as this stadium is moving a lot faster than other stadium proposals in this city. Let's just say that.
Right. It's moving forward really quick. I think it was first introduced in June is when we first started hearing about it. And now it's already in the city council talking about rezoning the area so that they can move forward with the construction. And I've been talking to some people and advocates in the Chinatown area who are really expressing concern over the potential gentrification that might come with the stadium, right? They're advertising the stadium as this multi-million-dollar investment that'll bring a lot of money to Chicago, like be really exciting because it's the Chicago Fire, like getting a lot of things in the area, like the affordable housing, perhaps, like other hotels, public spaces. But there's a lot of research out there that talks about the impact of sports stadiums on local cultural communities, local ethnic enclaves, particularly like if you think about Philadelphia, they tried to build a 76ers arena for the basketball team there and had a lot of pushback from the local Chinatown community because the studies show that there might be some boost like associated with the construction of these arenas, but in the long term, they really hurt the health of these ethnic enclaves, right? Like it gentrifies the local area, makes things more expensive, can push people out who have been there for decades. And Chinatown is a port of entry for so many Chinese and other East and Southeast Asian immigrants who are coming to the US. So many of these people, I mean, when you walk down Chinatown, you don't just see these businesses, you don't just see a lot of chains, you see like the elders who have lived there for so long, you see community members going to church, you see students going to the elementary school, and all of the houses in the nearby area, and that could all be impacted by a sports stadium being built there. And I think people are really asking for more consideration about the impact of the community, a community impact assessment maybe, like a community benefits agreement. In Philadelphia, for example, we know that the city released a community impact assessment that analyzed what could potentially happen to the surrounding area. And one of the findings was that the building of the stadium could result in the loss of Chinatown's identity and significance to the region. And that was something that the Philadelphia city like found itself. Like this isn't just something that like people were saying, like this was a assessment conducted by the city. And so we're not even seeing anything, right, in Chicago, any sort of assessment about what could happen here. I mean, the people who are building the stadium, they did have some meetings with community stakeholders, members of the Coalition for a Better Chinese American Community. They were saying that they talked to hundreds of people in the area, I think roughly 600 people, and that a majority of the people that they talked to said they had no idea that this was happening, right? And when you think about it, it's because like this is something that they're promoting in English and they're saying it's happening in English. Chinatown is a majority like Chinese area. Like people are speaking Chinese. If you don't even have notices, right? And all of our city council meetings are in English. Like if you don't have notices for Chinese speaking immigrants, how are they supposed to know that this is something that's happening and something that could potentially impact them in the future? And so because this is moving so quickly, people aren't having the time to spread awareness about it and to tell their community that this is something that's happening in their backyard. The other challenge is that it's happening in the 3rd Ward, just north of Pingtong Park in Chinatown. And so technically it's not in the 11th Ward where Chinatown is, but we know that it's so close that it will have a direct impact, right? It's right north of Pingtong Park. So there's no way that all of the people who are driving to see the Chicago fire wouldn't potentially cause traffic in all the surrounding areas. You see a clog somewhere, like it backs up everywhere else. We already know the traffic in this city is terrible.
And we also know that when private investors want to get the word out, want to work with community members, want to bring people in, they can be very robust in their advertising. I'm looking at you, Bally's Casino, which has put a lot of advertising.
They be targeting our people. Like we see the shuttles from Argyle, we see the shuttles from Chinatown. Like it's not, I see you. I see what you're doing.
When you talk to advocates, do they have any sense of the type of things they would want included in a community benefits agreement?
I think affordable housing is obviously really important, and also thinking about the potential impact to the traffic congestion in the area. Like for a lot of the businesses in the Chinatown area, the advocates in the Chinatown area are telling me that they're being priced out, right? Long-time family businesses are being priced out by franchises who are moving in, who can afford the commercial rents for that area. And so thinking about how best to protect people in that sense as well is really important.
I know some people listening are saying, hey, they were able to get the 76ers in Philadelphia to scrap their plans to build that facility. Maybe we could do the same. I think the difference there, unfortunately, is they had an existing stadium of their own that they're just going to tear down and rebuild a new one. The Chicago Fire don't have a home of their own. I think they are hoping to open and play by 2028.
Crane Chicago reported that, the Fire and related want to create this Wrigleyville-like atmosphere around the stadium. And Wrigleyville, for better or worse, 20 years ago, it had a little bit more culture and a neighborhood feel. They've Disneyfied it over the past 10 years. I mean, it's really like they've torn everything down, built up new retail. It's all chains. And it's just sort of, it feels new, like it was just taken and planted there around the stadium.
Can't smoke your blunts in a McDonald's parking lot like you used to.
Right. That Taco Bell has seen a lot of long hours. So I just think that that's a little bit telling here, is that that's being used as a model, and it really could cut away some of the charm of the area around where the development would take place.
Yeah, and that's interesting that you bring up Wrigleyville, because that is a port of entry for Japanese immigrants too when they came to Chicago. But you walk around Wrigleyville now, there is nary a Japanese person there. Maybe Shohei Ohtani one day. Other than that, like, it looks very different, right, than it did in the past. And the idea that they want to make that area like more Wrigley, like, may seem appealing to some people, but Chinatown has its own feel, its own culture, its own history. Like, it doesn't need to become another Wrigley.
What's up, y'all? Jacoby Cochran, senior host of CityCast Chicago. If I had to guess, you already know that, which means from listening to this show, you also know how much I love my city, how much this team rides for Chicago. And honestly, one of the best parts is we love helping you understand the city, feeling more connected to it. Because at the end of the day, the only reason this show works is because of you. You probably somebody who like to shop in their neighborhood whenever possible, right? You probably somebody who keep their library card on them, who their friends and family come to for their opinion and their thoughts on the stories happening in and around the city. You know how I know this? Because that's me. So if this sounds like you, I'm going to invite you to join CityCast Chicago Neighbors. Our membership program is designed to help people just like you. You're going to get invites to members-only events, our curated weekly roundup of the best things to do in the city, and a chance to share your love for Chicago on our podcast. Plus, your membership directly supports the people making this show every single day so that we can keep bringing you the stories that matter most. Become a CityCast Chicago neighbor for $10 a month or $100 a year at membership.citycast.fm. That's membership.citycast.fm. This episode is brought to you by Mubi, a global streaming service dedicated to elevating great cinema. On Mubi, stream beautiful hand-picked cinema anytime, anywhere. Right now, you can stream Vice is Broke, directed by author, producer, host, and chef Eddie Wong. The film follows the wild rise and fall of Vice from a scrappy Montreal alt-punk zine to a $5.7 billion media empire of the indie sleaze era and ultimately its dramatic bankruptcy. It's a raw, unfiltered look at toxicity, capitalism, and what happens when the hype finally dies down. You can watch Vice is Broke and so much more exclusively on Mubi. And the best part, you can try it free for 30 days. Just head to Mubi.com/CityCast25. That's Mubi, MUBI.com/CityCast25. Before we get to our good news, I want to take some time to show some love to our members, our neighbors who have been rocking with us for a while now and who have given us some amazing neighborhood shout outs. Remember, when you join CityCast Chicago Neighbors, you don't get all of the other perks that we list ad nauseum this week and next week, but you also get an opportunity to talk directly to us, and we're going to get that directly to the listeners and the readers. We want to hear your neighborhood shout outs. What's the places you like visiting, right? The places you like doing yoga, the places you like getting coffee. And I mentioned those two in particular because Courtney W. wanted to shout out the Groove Chicago. It's a yoga studio in Avondale that centers women of color and is extremely community focused. I want to show some love to Andrea P., who is giving a shout out to all of the Cafe Tola locations, but especially the one on California. They say they've been going there pretty much every Saturday for years, and there's no better way to start the day than with a couple of them empanadas hot out of the fryer from Tola. Who else we got here? April D. wanted to give a shout out to the Simmons Center for Global Chicago. Mark C. wanted to give a shout out to Resilience, an organization that works with and supports individuals who are survivors of sexual and domestic violence in Chicago. Zoran D. wanted to shout out Squeaky Bees, the best damn pet store in Chicago. Philip M. loves Red Twist Theater on Bryn Mawr and Edgewater. He says it's an incredible theater in a cool and intimate black box. Y'all, we want to hear from y'all. We want to know the places in and around your neighborhood, and we want you to join this growing community of CityCast Chicago neighbors. You may get the opportunity to meet them at membership events, but most importantly, you get to support your favorite podcast and newsletter to make sure that we can keep bringing you episodes like today's for weeks to come, y'all. I know I just say weeks, but I really mean months and years. But, I don't want to be too optimistic. I don't want to get too ahead of myself. I'm taking it day by day. You can join now at membership.citycast.fm. Nato, what's your good news for us today?
Well, it's a little bit of bittersweet news, if I can twist it a bit, but it's the Leo Catholic High School Choir.
That was going to be mine too, so go ahead.
And the good news is that they made it to the finals of America's Got Talent. They almost won the $1 million grand prize. The kids had said they wanted to spend it on college tuition, but they were among the top 4 finalists. And there are just thousands and thousands of people that originally audition, and then, I don't know the exact number, but over 100 who make it to the show after that. And they've gone through stage after stage after stage and made it to the last round. And so congrats to them. They fell short. They didn't win in the final. But Simon Cowell, who we all know for people who used to watch American Idol, man, it's been too long. He told them that you've inspired so many people, and he's proud of what they've achieved. And so it's really cool to see a local group of students on the national stage like that.
They cover some great songs during their run, from Believer to Centuries. I think they got a bonus performance with Aloe Black singing The Man before the results were announced. It had been really cool to follow this story throughout the summer. We've talked about it a couple of times on the podcast about now retired and, iconic choir director LaDonna Hill. I learned this week that one of the young men was a alumni of my elementary school. Bernard was in the class of 2022 because my principal and my 7th grade teacher all put up like a video celebrating them. You saw videos from people like Common and the Bears. And so it really was a great story for a school that over the decades has, dealt with enrollment loss. And, when I was a kid, there were way more all Black Catholic elementary schools and high schools, and there are far fewer. And so it was just really cool for them to kind of get this spotlight and for 79th Street as a whole to have a moment. And so I'm glad you mentioned that, Nader. I was going to talk about it as well. And so we double up on the shine. If you haven't watched any of their performances, take some time, go over to YouTube and just run those videos up. The more views they have, the more these young men will be able to figure out a way to take this opportunity into the future and keep making waves for themselves. So a dope story to watch. Katrina, over to you. What's your good news for us today?
Some good news is this story that I worked on. There's a lot of the heavy stories that are really important to talk about, but we don't want to lose sight of the people who are finding joy in their lives and finding ways to push back on the narratives being pushed on them and the challenges being pushed on them by the Trump administration. And one of those people is Ada. This is a pseudonym that she's using to protect herself and her family. Her family's undocumented, but she has DACA, and she spoke to us at Borderless about her journey, like navigating all the uncertainties that come with DACA. DACA is a program that's been in the courts for many years now, I think since Trump's first term. And even in his second term now, Trump has really sent a lot of mixed messages about this program's future, saying like it's something that they want to work on and something they want to potentially provide a legal pathway for. But now we're seeing DACA recipients being detained and arrested nationwide. But Ada is someone who is involved with undocumented organizing here in Chicago. She recently graduated from a 4-year university and is now working to advocate for immigrant rights. And so this is just a story about how she kind of came to this place in her life and how she kind of grew as someone who faced a lot of struggles with her identity and with her status to someone who wants to openly speak out about it and speak up for other people who maybe can't speak up as well. And so I think this is something that's important to think about too, because during this time, like people are not just people who are being immigrants, right? Are not just people who are being targeted by ICE. They're not just people who are living under everything that the Trump administration wants to throw at them. They're also people who are choosing to move forward and people who are choosing to fight for something different.
A very beautiful story. I'm going to drop that in our show notes. So please make sure you go over there and read it and all of the other stories we have covered today. I'm going to close us out. This weekend, I'm getting to see some college friends in a number of ways. I have some friends, Adam and Sophie, who are getting married. And then also my homie Brooke is coming into town. I haven't seen her in at least a couple of years because she lives out in California. And all of us, her, my friend Nat, Matt, we all go back to Bradley University together. So it's going to be a little bit of a Bradley University speech reunion this weekend that I am very much looking forward to. Before we get out of here, I just want to give a huge thank you to our guest today. Anytime y'all make time for the podcast, it's a good day. From Borderless Magazine, Katrina Pham, thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you, Jacoby. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. And from the Chicago Sun-Times, Nader Issa, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Jacoby. Been great to be here.
Before we get out of here, I want to show love to the people who make CityCast Chicago and Hey Chicago possible every single day, every single week. And that includes executive producer Simone Alicea, producer Michelle Navarro, our Hey Chicago newsletter editor Emmy Mack, our social media manager Rick Hometh, our roving producer this week Natalie Rivera. Y'all, I know I say these credits every single week and y'all might think we just put these on a loop and repeat them, just slot them in every single, nah. I record this live every week. Our music, we love it. We thank the people who provide it. That's Sam Thousand, all the kimonos, Mark Greenberg from the Mayfair Workshop, additional music this week, Hip Color, Gloria Tales, and the New Fools courtesy of Epidemic Sound. I also want to give some love to our new neighbors who have joined during this campaign, including Will C., Alexandra G., Alexandra F., Teresa B., Sarah M. Shout out to Jenny B., who joined this week and said, appreciate the daily email and truly enjoy listening to the podcast on my way to work. Love hearing the Chicago food, drink, and event recommendations, and I learned so much from the podcast conversations. Thanks for keeping me informed and for boosting all Chicago neighborhoods. Jenny, no thank you for listening. We really appreciate every single person, whether you're a neighbor or not. We're going to be back bright and early next week. We'll talk to you then. Peace. Oh, what happened to my... Y'all still hear me? My camera went out for a second. All right, cool. My screen went black and I was like, oh no.
The rapture.
It's happening. It's happening.